Start to the year. Good pick up into the counter there. Into the first change. Gets the change. So on track to finish around the mid-30 territory. And a good solid score on the board for Poland. One of a couple of teams, as I've said before, only the 3 riders in their team, so all 3 scores will count. Should a team member not complete, then they will count 1,000 penalties into the team score. And of course, as a team that has 4 riders, you would hope that you could then drop that penalty score of 1,000. But all to play for, because it really is going to be a tough competition throughout the weekend. And Avenches, the cross country here is particularly tough. The time is going to be a real question, and so some of the time penalties will really play a part as well. Paweł Włoszkowski, Lidl, 36.3 into 6th.
So we will have a short break now. We will continue at 12:21 with the second part of the riders.
So Paweł Włoszkowski, 36.3, good enough for 6th. As we head to the first break of the day, chance for us to just recap on the leaderboard. In terms of the individual standings, Larissa Lubica and Karen 28.1 sees them in 2nd. Antonia Baumgart, Rita Tarm in 3rd, 29.0. Robin Godel in 4th, 29.8, the other sub 30 score. Heloise Le Guen, and then just ahead of Paweł Włoszkowski, I have got 2 horses, all 20.2. The other nations that went as 2nd, and then Switzerland. Under 15 minutes time to see Melody Jona for Switzerland. Go and grab a cup of tea, a little refreshment break, if you will, and do stay with us, because we've got an action-packed day of competition here in Avenches. But Germany and Larissa Lubica very firmly in the driving seat at the moment.
Ouais, tu peux stopper direct. Ouais, avec le bouton sur le petit écran.
venue we have got here. One of the most beautiful venue we have got here. One of the most beautiful locations in Switzerland, and it will be the host venue for the FEI Eventing Nations Cup competition next year as well. So 2027 will see a championship come back here to Avenches, but we're just in the heart of western Switzerland, between the shores of Lake Merton and the vineyards of the Boré region. It is one of the most beautiful locations in the country. They've hosted top-level eventing, 4-star and above, since 2020, so it's a relatively new addition to the eventing calendar. They actually hosted the Senior European Eventing Championships as well back in 2021. So despite being relatively young still, they've got a whole wealth of experience. And now we go to a combination that have got a whole wealth of experience as well. Melody Yona comes forward for the home side with Erin. And we are still in the thick of our team rotation of riders. So we've got some 8 teams in the lineup here this weekend. All of them have had at least one combination down the centre line. So we're halfway through that second rotation of riders. Melody Yona and Erin the next to go for the Swiss team, following on from teammates Robin Godel and Grandeur de Lally, who put in a very strong first phase for 29.8, sitting in 4th place individually as things stand. This horse, 11 years of age, by Minuscule, was actually produced originally by Andrew Nicholson, who's been instrumental in the Swiss national team over the last few years. Owned now by Melody herself and the Syndicate Gamma. Andrew rode a number by the sire Minuscule. And Erin has been with Melody for a good while now. Took over the reins in 2024. And here last year. Felix Vogue took the top 2 spots. Nadja Minder finished in 3rd. Then it was Michael Young. Then Melody Yona, top 5. Picks up that counter. Melody, who herself has been to a couple of Olympic Games, Tokyo, and then most recently Paris with Touble de Rouet. Was part of the Swiss team that finished just off the podium in 4th in Paris. First of these changes. Good change. And another really smart change as well. That was very nice. Into the final halt. Not quite square behind, but beautifully balanced. And she looks absolutely thrilled with that. That is a very, very good test from the Swiss combination, and the Swiss have got a very strong team here this weekend. They're really bringing out the big guns. It'll be a final observation event, one would imagine, before their championship team for Aachen is announced too, as is the case for a couple of other teams in the lineup here. But that was a very, very good first phase performance. And in terms of a best at the level, I think it's going to be a PB at the 4-star division for both horse and rider. Melody and Erin scored 29.0 here in Avenches last year. They scored 29.0 in Vitel. They will better that here today. Big question is how low can they go? We've still into third place, so very, very strong for Melody Yona. And for Erin, we'll confirm the score for you as soon as we get an update. But next we go to Splinter Bergsma and Vigo Key SRZ for the Netherlands. Netherlands have had a strong start. Sanne de Jong sits in second with Enjoy on a score of 28.1. So a number of teams off for a very competitive start here, not least Germany, who have 2 sub-30 scores on the board. That was a nice halt. Also on the Dutch team, we've already seen Sanne de Jong, but we've and Gillian Giesen still to go. Really expressive extended trot. It's very brave there as well, actually. Really asked for the marks. Just getting confirmation. Melody Yona and Erin, 28.3. It is an international PB for them. They go third. That is a huge test for the Swiss team. And again, that sub-30 trending score. Looking very competitive at the moment. Tiny little bit of movement, but it looks a really nice square halt. Obedient rein back. Splinter, a really tall rider. Vigo KSR, 13 years of age, by Vigo Darziel, owned by Niels and Roel Bergsma. Combination completed Buccolo last year. Lovely clear round on the final day. Lovely clear round on the final day. See the first of these changes coming up. Does a good job there. Really nice clean change. And actually, Splinter took the reserve Dutch national title with that result at Buccolo last year. Ster van Hout took the top spot. Not quite square behind in the final halt, very square in front, beautifully relaxed in this test. Vigo KSR knowing the job very well. And Splinter Bergsma comes to the end of his first phase here. It's going to be a solid score for the Dutch team. Isn't quite going to challenge their personal best that they picked up last time out, but still very, very good starting point. And a combination that are looking to impress the Dutch selection team ahead of the World Championships in Aachen here. Dearly love the opportunity to be able to compete there. And in fact, only 21 years of age as well. I think would still be eligible. 4 young riders by my maths too. Just turned 21 this year. My goodness me, I'm sure if he was given the opportunity of a World Championship spot, he would be very keen. Heads out of the arena for the final steward's check. And the Dutch team on hand to debrief and check in as well. So, Splinter Bergsma, good test for the Netherlands. Vigo Key SR. Score around 34.0. We'll confirm that when it comes through. As now we go to the third of the French team riders. Morgane Yeriat and her long-time top-level campaigner, Baccarat d'Argon. Anything lower than a 38.6 will definitely be a counting score and can help improve the French team score at this time. Morgane, who has come up through the junior young rider levels in France, rode this horse at the Young Rider European Championships, took individual 6th and team silver back in Marsbergen in the Netherlands in 2019. "15 years of age, this mare now. Our long format in Linear. At Bramham, Buccolo since then, so pretty experienced at the 4-star division. So far, things going very well in this test. Best French score on the board so far, Heloise Le Guen, Dakota Denath, 33.1. Good change. France looking very strong at the top of the series leaderboard. Change didn't pick up quite such good marks. The horse just starting to get a little bit tight and tense through these final canter movements, and actually the final halt a little bit abrupt, which was a real shame because there was so much to like from that test, but actually just that tiny little bit of tension creeping in. But only had that last movement left to go. So Morgane Yeriat and Baccarat d'Argon, 15 years of age, by Birkhof's Grafenstolz. Grafenstolz, the sire of the likes of 5-time 5-star winner Lordship's Graffalo, plus a whole host of other top-level event horses. But I think Morgane will be pretty pleased with that. It's going to be good enough to put her inside the top 10 individually. It will be a counting score for the French team as well. There we go, 30.9 sees her go into 6th. Actually just pops her ahead on the leaderboard of Splinter Bergsma and Vigo Key SR, who just completed their test a short while ago, provisionally into 7th now, 31.5. So a very strong start from the German team, the Swiss team and the Dutch team as things stand at the moment. This is going to be a super competitive class. Now we go to Sarah Julia Goldschlag, For Italy, Tintoretto del Quadrifoglio. Combination that come forward as rider number 3 for Italy. 40.2 or below will guarantee them an improvement as things stand on their team score. Still one rider left to go, Emiliano Portali, a little bit later on. Tintoretto del Quadrifoglio, 13 years of age, this gelding by Jaguar Male. Again, another top-class sire. Jaguar Male, the likes of Vasily de Lassos is by Jaguar Male. Owned by Brian Scott Goldschlag. And this combination actually come here off the back of 3 straight international victories, most recently in Protoni. 43.1 was the score on which they finished with an excellent double jumping clear round to take the win at the beginning of May. A little bit close behind in that halts and immobility. Now to just keep the frame and the contact consistent. Into the extended walk, and just actually not quite showing off the extended walk perhaps as much as Sarah would like. And I think possibly a little bit of underlying tension is very much the reason why. And again, it comes down to the fact it's so easy to pass comment from the sidelines, but actually you don't feel what the rider feels. And unfortunately picking up the wrong canter transition as well. But Sarah's actually just gone, do you know what? Don't worry about it. We'll forego that movement, not upset it. And away we go. And actually, interestingly, I think the bell is ringing and they're actually calling out that the canter movement wasn't completed at all. So let's just go back here. So what you need to do is you finish your extended walk and then you transition to collected walk at K. At A, it is collected canter right. So she's had to come back to the walk. It was that she just actually picked up the incorrect canter lead, as in the correct canter lead, but incorrect for the test, if you will. But actually the judges said, no, do you know what? You've got to come around and do it again. And actually the horse has done it really nicely that time. So in a way, perhaps a good training exercise as well for the horse to be able to go back and do it. But it will be costly on the marks. It's -2 from each of the judges. And occasionally you see it whereby actually if a movement in that sort of instance has been missed, that actually, and unfortunately just getting into a little bit of a pickle again, if the movement has been missed, the judge would not let it go, but would mark it accordingly. You can almost, you've seen occasions whereby horses would come back to trot for the flying change, and they obviously aren't going to pick up big marks at all, but generally speaking, judges have been just reflected that on the scorecard. But actually the judges, well within their rights, of course, to say, no, that wasn't the test, that wasn't the required movement, please go back and correct it. And actually she did a really good job in correcting it, so it played out very well, and she did a super job in maintaining this horse's composure. Because let's be honest, it's easy to forget as well that these horses are fit animals that are looking forward to being able to excel in all 3 phases. So they've got to concentrate today for 6 minutes or so within these white boards and perform a cool and calm and relaxed and obedient dressage test. But on Saturday, You want them to have the stamina. You want them to have plenty of fitness in the tank, the boldness for cross country, and then of course the coloured poles of show jumping and the scope and the carefulness on Sunday. But that is why we love this sport. That is why we love eventing, the challenge of the three phases. But Italy, 3 scores now firmly on the board, and we can give you a provisional team score for them in just a moment's time. So Sarah Giulia Goldschlag and Tintoretto del Quadrifoglio completing on a score of 47.6 as things stand at the moment. So that, as we look as things stand, sees Italy on a score after 3 riders of 127.8. They do of course still have 1 rider left to go. That will be Emiliano Portale, and if he can give them a lower score than 47.8, then that will be the drop score. Now we turn our attentions to a 2-time 5-star winner in Caroline Harris. I bet she won't get tired of hearing that for a little while. She is the recent Longines Le Moulin victor, with her long-time top-level championship campaigner D-Day, on whom she is listed on the long list for Team GB for the World Championships in Aachen. She brings here, though, the 10-year-old Leicester CKV. Good halt. Caroline, who's based down near Gatcombe Park in Gloucestershire, has an exceptional team of horses. Was based for a long time with Australian international Sam Griffiths. Set up on her own yard probably 6-7 years ago now, and has since then gone from strength to strength to build a really top class team of horses. Just there was a tiny loss of balance in the extended trot, and she did a very good job just to get the horse back to her. This horse actually went to Bramham, jumped clear cross country in the 4-star short a few weeks ago. Was top 20 at Lignières in the Nations Cup 12 months ago as well, or just under 12 months, last September. Second at Mill Street in the 3-star long format last year. So still relatively new to the 4-star level. Lovely immobility in the halt, that was super. Good rein back for Caroline. Good knowledge as well for those riders who haven't competed here a huge amount before, ahead of the European Championships next year. To get a real feel for the location. That was a lovely extended canter. See how these changes are, because so far this is a really lovely test from this horse. Got in a little bit of a pickle in the flying change, just a tiny bit of tension really crept in. Just needs to be careful not to just drop behind the vertical. Got that change was a little bit better. Caroline doing a really good job. She's been very brave in this test as well, actually. She's really presented the test to the judges. She's asked for all of the marks she can possibly ask for. And actually, there's tiny bit of loss of balance. That was a real shame into the halt, because actually the halts have been one of this horse's highlights. But perhaps just a little bit of inexperience. And the strength for this horse will continue to improve as he gets older as well and gets more mileage at the top level. But actually, there is so much to like, but still lots of marks left in the locker, and that is, well, of course you want to get all the marks you can do on a day. You also know that actually there's more in there, and they will be there on another occasion, which is exciting, especially when you are going to come out with a score around the 30 mark. So a strong first phase performance for Caroline Harris and Leicester CKV. And don't forget that the British team, only 3 riders in their squad here this weekend, so that will mean that all 3 will count. 30.3, good enough to put them into 6th, and that sees them just outside the top 5 as things stand at the moment. But again, will be a counting score for the British team regardless. They have Yaz Ingham and Kinda Corvette left to go. Pretty exciting young team of British horses, in fact, all of them sort of 10 or 11. And we'll look forward to them a little bit later on. So that takes us now to Leah Siegel and Watermill Giorgio in the final session. We now go to Harold Siegel for Austria, Monroe de Us, and actually a little bit of history being made here this weekend, because father and daughter, Harold and Leah Siegel, both competing on the same Nations Cup team, following in the footsteps of Henrik and Ebba Adnovic. Chris and Senna Vajaka also have done so for Belgium back in 2019 too, but it's a pretty special moment. Harold Siegel for Austria. Monroe de Us, 10 years of age, by Millennium, owned by Harold and Uta Siegel. Harold, who has represented his country at 2 World Championships in Caen in 2014, Aachen back in 2006, but also Athens Olympics in 2004. There's a few senior European championships on there as well. Made his senior debut, I think, back in 2001 at the Europeans in Po. Just goes to show incredible longevity in his career. Actually, this horse only recently having stepped up to the 4-star level, but one last time out at 3-star division. Was 4th in a 4-star at the beginning of April. Up the counter canter very nicely. Good change. Second change, unfortunately, late behind. So Harold Siegel, second of our Austrian team members. Austria, another of those teams that just have the 3 team members here. They'll have Leah Siegel to go a little bit later on. But all three of their scores will count this weekend. In terms of the Nations Cup League standings for Austria, they're actually sitting in second. They've got two leg appearances so far. France and Austria, the only two nations that have two leg appearances thus far. They were sixth in Marbach, third in Stragom, so 135 points. They sit second behind France. So they will be looking to capitalise on their points here this weekend to try and build that score with still Lignère left to go later on in the season. And as we've said, it is the best 10 teams, best 10 nations on the series leaderboard going into Buccolo, who will be able to field a team for that Nations Cup final in the Netherlands this live territory. Live territory. Next to go, it is one of the key combinations for Germany. Germany lead the way in the team standings here. They've had two riders, both sub-30 at the moment. Antonia Baumgart sits fourth, Rida Tarm on 29.0. Labissa Lubica, Karamia FRH 26.0, now 26.4. So do check the official scoreboards. All of the scores that we give you are provisional. So we go to Christoph Wahler, Decor FRH, 14 years of age, by Diorado. Was bred by Christoph von Papke, owned by Stefan Haupt and Hendrik von Papke. And this is a big combination for Germany over the next couple of months, not only just here in the Nations Cup, but heading to a home World Championships in Aachen. That was a lovely square hold. They have had a relatively quiet 12 months. The horse had a bit of time off through injury. Came back for a very impressive finish at Le Moulin. Jumped a good clear round cross country, a fast clear round cross country. Finished just outside the top 10. But previously have been 7th at Badminton last year. Have been 9th at Defender Kentucky over in the US. Top 12 at Buccolo. They've won at the 4-star level also. They've been second at Le Moulin in the German National Championship division. They are a serious combination. And he is a horse that, if he's in the mix on Saturday, look out for them cross country, because he can be so fast. Has been inside the time. Badminton, Kentucky, Buccolo, Stragom, Le Moulin. The list goes on. That is how good he is. Christoph really showing off the immobility in that beautiful halt. And you're actually, the halt is marked totally separately. The balance and the correct halt, immobility 3 to 4 seconds. And 3 to 4 seconds in the middle of a dressage arena here in the Avenches Stadium will feel probably like 8 or 10 seconds. But actually Christoph did a very good job there in really taking his time. I would imagine that he will be well rewarded for it. Seven and an 8. Tiny bit of tension just crept in at the end of the walk. Lovely big bold extended canter. Good change, that was beautiful. 2 8s for that flying change, very much deserved. Leader, remember, 26.4. Another lovely change. I think these changes, don't forget that they've got double marks, so both of those changes, Chris Wahler, he's had 8s across the board for the last 3 movements, are going to really, really catapult him up the leaderboard. And if he can carry on with a good final halt, this will be our new leader. And it is a very good final halt. Christoph Wahler again shows off the beautiful immobility to call FR8. The bang. That is a huge test for the combination who dearly love to be representing their country in Aachen, would dearly love to be stood on top of a podium at the end of this Nations Cup competition in Avenches. They've taken over the top spot. It is a German 1-2. Christoph Wahler, Decor FR8, provisional score in 25.1. Kadamia FR8, Labissa Lübecker go into second, 26.4. But it is going to mean that Germany very firmly in the driving seat. They will have 3 sub-30 scores to, at the very least, coming forward to the cross-country on Saturday. They've still got one combination left to go. That is Arne Bergendahl and Bronco NRW. There is confirmation. 25.1 into the lead for Christoph Wahler. And that is a huge personal best for the horse as well. Beats his previous best of 27.1, which was a 3-star at Radolfzell last year. But Christoph Wahler, the core FRH, the ones to beat.
And we have a new leader, Christoph Wahler for Germany and Dakar. Judge at C177 and judge at B100.
So, all change at the top of the leaderboard, but one thing that hasn't changed is Germany's grip on the top spot. Christoph Wahler now leads the way. Labissa Lübecker in second. Their third team rider is in 5th. And the team score after 3 riders is 80.5, most likely to improve. Emily Giron now, Cybershot. For Poland, second of our Polish team riders, Paweł Włoszkowski has been. Cybershot comes forward as 14-year-old by Tourmalin, owned by Emily herself, Swedish bred. Emily just having to work quite hard to get the rein back, but makes it happen. Paweł Włoszkowski Lidl 36.3 is the score. Did a really good job of just keeping the horse backed into that canter transition, because you could see when you pick up the contact after that extended walk back to the collected walk, the horses anticipate that the transition is coming. Just got a little bit above the contact going into that change, and Emily did a good job and just softening the hand. So we'll be around the mid to late 30s for Emily Giron and Cybershot. Again, a combination that will be looking for a good score on the board for their country. It's such an honour to represent your country in a Nations Cup competition. Their first visit to Avenches. Emily, who based over on British soil, I believe. She was top 20 in Stragom in the 4-star long a little bit earlier on this year. Completed Scone 4-star long last season as well. Has had some solid results, including a 6th place finish at Little Downham a couple of years ago in the 4-star there. This horse was originally brought out 3-star by Johan London.
We have the results for Avenches
At the moment, because there is Angelica making her final preparations, but Christoph Wahler and the core FRH the ones to beat. 25.1 out in front of teammates Labissa Lubica. Kadamia FRH scored a huge personal best. There's been a number of personal bests actually so far. 26.4 sitting in second. Sana de Jong and Joy in third. Melody Yona in this session has moved up into fourth for Switzerland, and Antonia Baumgart rounding out the top 5. For the team competition, we've still got a number of teams just with 2 riders to have gone, but of those teams that have had 3 riders down the centre line, Germany firmly in control, 80.5. They've had 3 riders go, and actually still 1 left to compete. That will be Arne Bergendahl, but they've got 3 sub-30 scores on the board. France 102.7, Italy 127.8, Switzerland 58.1. So they're also very much in the mix here, and it'll be interesting to see what their next combination can produce as they come forward now. Angelica Dubac, Feeling de Chinon by Gedam. This horse scored 35.5 last time out, went to Le Moulin for the German National Championship class. Finished just outside the top 20 there. Were 4th at Protoni in the 4-star long at the end of last season. Top 20 here 12 months ago. Jumped a lovely clear round cross country, and that would have been one of the horse's first runs at the 4-star level, I think, as well. So has gained a huge amount of experience in the last 12 months. Hold 2, 3, 4, 5 steps in the rein back. We've got 2 sub-30 scores on the board so far as well for the Swiss team, and they still, of course, have Felix Vogue and Calero left to go a little bit later on. Good job. First half of this test. Lovely change. There really is no place to hide on the centre line for those changes. Second change, unfortunately, very, very late behind. And that's going to sneak into the next movement as well, which was a real shame. So a lovely final halt, just the second of those changes, unfortunately, were very expensive. So that will cost them dearly on the leaderboard, but still a lot to like from this first phase. The first change was good, but again, the intensity of this 4-star FEI Test D causes plenty of challenges for the combinations coming forwards. Still going to be a solid score. We'll wait for that to be updated. But Angelique Dubac and Philin Deschenant, a third of the Swiss combinations to come down the centre line today, have completed their first phase. Felix Vogue and Calero will be the last to go for Switzerland a little bit later on. And we are predominantly welcoming the combinations forward from the team competition today. Tomorrow it is more about the individuals. There we go, 36.5, just outside the top 10 into 13th for Angelique Dubac and Philin Deschenant. Okay, next to go, we'll give you an update on the Swiss team score in just a second. But next to go, it are as well. Both of their individual riders sitting inside the top 10 at the moment. The highest placed Sana de Jong, who sits in a podium position in third. So Florinor Hugland, Hontoni, 14 years of age by Quasimodo. Huge paces on this horse. Individual for the Netherlands, finished at 20th individually. '15th at Royal Jump at the last observation event for the Dutch team. That was at the beginning of June. And then this, the final observation event for them pre-Aachen team selection. Went clear cross country in the Nations Cup in Arveel last year. Was on the podium at Babarithco. The Dutch team, like all of the other nations, except of course host nation USA, first priority from the World Championships in Aachen is team qualification for the Olympic Games in LA. The USA as host will have automatic qualification, which takes the pressure off them slightly. That would very much be the priority for this Dutch team. Lovely job in the extended canter. Good positioning in the half pass to the right. And a lovely flying change. Enough to see them drop sub 30. Just need to keep the quality and the impulsion in the canter in that half pass to the left. Second change wasn't as good as the first, but this is still a very, very strong test for the Dutch team here. They're going to be very pleased with their first three combinations, I would imagine. They still have, of course, Gillian Geese and Seattle Park left to go. Lovely square final halt. Florinor Hugland and Hontoni putting in a strong performance for the Dutch team. And it's going to give the Dutch a very, very strong score after 3 of their riders have completed. At the moment, Germany on 80.5 with 3 riders in the bank. Switzerland 94.6, France 102.7, Italy 127.8. All of those nations can only improve those team scores. The Netherlands, I think, are going to slot into maybe second place. I think they're just going to sneak in ahead of Switzerland. And of course, they both still have 1 rider left to go to improve that. And you can just see Hontoni just having a little look around coming out of the arena. But good enough to go inside the top 10. 31.5. And a very smart score from each of our first 3 Dutch combinations. The Netherlands, alongside Italy, making their Nations Cup debut this weekend here in Avenches. There we are, 31.5 into 9th. And in terms of a team score, that does a 3-rider score. Actually, just a stone's throw away from the historic Roman town. A stone's throw away from the historic Roman town of Avenches. That is Luc Chateau just making his final preparations. When the horse before you is in the arena, you're allowed to come down and just work in that final working in area, which you get all to yourself, and the real sort of test environment as well. Gives you the opportunity to just make sure that all of the finishing touches to your preparation are done and dusted. France, who actually lead the nations standings, 160 points on the card for them. They were 5th as a team in Marbach to pick up 60 points. Then they won as a team in Stragon a couple of weeks ago, which netted them another 100. And actually, that sees them clear of Austria in second, 135. But France and Austria, the only 2 nations that actually have 2 team scores to count so far this year, and it will be the best of 3 that will count on the final leaderboard. And remember, the top 10 teams will qualify for the FEI Eventing Nations Cup final to put a team in at Buccolo at the end of the season. And actually, you've got some 13 nations who have been represented in the series so far. There's a few teams this weekend who won't be adding points, the likes of Ireland, New Zealand, Sweden, the USA, but everybody else on the list, plus with the addition of Italy and the Netherlands, will be looking to add to their points tally. Okay, Luc Chateau. Let's turn our attention to Dro. Bastien de la Bay actually missed the entirety of the 2025 season. So this the horse's first international run since finishing 7th in Oudcastle back in 2024. But was 5th at Buccolo in a very impressive performance at the tail end of 2023. So what a horse to have back in his string for Luc. Has a whole host of very good finishes at the 4-star level. Just has been a little bit shy of match practice at the international division over the last couple of years. So wonderful to see this horse back out competing. And a first international run in over 2 years. I'm sure it's a very special moment for Luc and his team as well. Getting a horse to the top level of the sport is really, really tough. Keeping them there is tough, and there's so much love that goes into these horses, and care, attention to detail is absolutely second to none. And you just saw a really clever little bit of ring craftsmanship from Luke there. So he knew he was going to have to pick up the counter lead, and he just almost very subtly brought the horse away from the whiteboards, and then he was able to just gently angle the neck back in the transition. It just gave him a little bit more room. It would have been much more noticeable to us from our camera position, I think, than it would be to perhaps the judges. Luke will be hoping they didn't notice at all. Just got a little bit tight and tense through that change, which unfortunately will be costly. The French team at the moment, this is lower than a 38.7, so 38.6 or below, which this will improve their team score. So the French team score is going to go below the 100 mark. Luc Chateau, Bastien de la Bay, bringing the French challenge in the first phase in the Nations Cup to a close. And it's a pretty solid first phase score for them. He'll go inside the top 15. The leader at the moment, Christophe Waller de Core FRH, huge PB for them, 25.1, ahead of Lubissa Lubica Academia FRH, also for Germany, 26.4. As there we go, confirmation into 12, 33.1 for Luc Chateau, Bastien de la Bay, and that sees them just outside the top 10. In terms of the French team, it will adjust the French score, which we'll confirm for you in just a moment. There we go, 97.1. So the French are locked in on a team score of 97.1. That is the first team that we have locked in. They will be no higher than fourth, lead ahead of them as we go into this final rotation of riders. But France, 97.1 into 12 for Luc Chateau. The lead aims to bring you the likes of Yazingham for Great Britain, Leah Siegel, who made history for Austria at last year's European Championships with her top 5 finish. Felix Vogue and his 5-star winner, Calero, second here, 12:22, so in around 15 minutes' time. Do stay with us, we'll see you then.
Dann Italien, Großbritannien, Österreich und Polen. Im Einzelklassement haben wir an erster Stelle aktuell Christoph Wahler für Deutschland, an zweiter Stelle Libussa Lübecke und an dritter Stelle Samuel de Jong für die Niederlande.
compétition qui reprend dans 2 à 3 minutes avec le 4 étoiles et la Coupe des Nations. On l'a dit, pour l'instant, après le passage de 3 cavaliers pour la plupart des équipes, l'Allemagne est en tête devant les Pays-Bas et la Suisse. La France a déjà vu ses 4 cavaliers et cavalières effectuer leur programme. Et on va reprendre avec l'équipe d'Italie. Et un cavalier qui nous présente SFS Arano, c'est Emiliano Portale.
So we will continue the CCIO 4-star, the FEI Eventing Nations Cup with the last group of competitors for today. So we have the 4th rider representing Italy, Emiliano Portale with SFS Arano.
Emiliano Portale qui était des Jeux de Paris, qui était également des Européens. Je pense que c'est un fidèle d'Avenches qui nous rejoint aujourd'hui. Avec SFS Arano, de bons résultats, des top 3 au niveau 3 étoiles.
Welcome back to the FEI Eventing Nations Cup competition here in Avenches in Switzerland as we head into the final session of dressage for day 1. We'll be back, of course, tomorrow as well. SFS Arano, mare called Lady SFS Arano, mare called Lady Arco, in fact, who I will double check for you in a second, but was bred by Lisa Hales. And the Hales family owned Nick Skelton's wonderful Olympic ride Arco. And I would imagine this horse is a descendant of the great Arco on the dam side. Matt Cavill owns the gelding now. Emiliano, the most experienced member of this Italian team. Regular visitor to Avenches as well. Has been to the Olympic Games in Paris and 3 senior European championships. .41 years of age, 42 years of age I should say. Celebrated his birthday last week. Lovely extended canter. SFS Arano, as I said a little bit earlier on this season, has since been 2nd and 3rd in 2 other 3-star divisions too. So there's lots of good form. That was another really nice change. Not quite square behind in the final halt, but a really lovely test from this young horse. Owned by Matt Cavill, as I say, and has a very solid international jumping record too. Clear cross country on each of his 7 international starts. And has show jump clear in 5 of the 7 as well. Big step up this weekend at 4-star division, but looks like a real star for the future. .33.1 into 12th place on the leaderboard, and that sees them putting in the final team score for Italy, which will improve the Italian team score too. quite significantly by some 14 penalties or so. We'll confirm the updated penalty mark for you in just a second when that is confirmed on the live scores. But it's a good anchor performance from Minningham, who comes forward with the 9-year-old Kinda Corvette. Corey, as he's known at home to his friends, by Diorado. And he's such a cool pocket rocket of a horse. He was originally produced by 5-star rider Kylie Roddy, who I remember flagging him as one to watch as early as when he was about a 5-year-old. Then Danny Stewart Richardson produced him up through the levels to 3-star. Did an absolutely incredible job before Yaz, with the support of her long-time owners, Jeanette Chin and the Sue Davis Fund, purchased the horse last season. He's a 9-year-old now, and he is a very, very cool jumping machine, as well as being able to produce a very smart dressage test. Best test at the 4-star level, 29.4, but has been as low as 27.7 at 4-star long. That was at Royal Jump a few weeks ago in the 4-star long there. Best placing at 4-star level was actually top 10 at Burgem on his debut last year. Previous winner of the 3-star at Kelsall Hill. Yaz, who's based up in Cheshire, in the northwest of England, trains a good bit with Andy Heffernan, who's the Dutch chef de keep, who's out here with the Dutch team this week. Gold medal winning performance. Did a nice first flying change. Second one, unfortunately, was clean, but it was a couple of strides after the aid had been given, so not quite as obedient. But actually the British team here this weekend, all young horses, 9, 10, 11, some experienced jockeys on board, very much about producing future top level combinations for the sport. And Yazingham Kinda Corvette are going to give us a good score for the British team here. It will be pretty close to her teammate, Caroline Harris, and Leicester CKV scored 30.3. She's not going to be a million miles away from that in terms of a final score on the board. So Yazingham and Kinda Corvette. The horse looks an absolute picture. Alison Bell, Yaz's head groom, ably supported by a wonderful team at home as well, does an incredible job. And the horses always look immaculately turned out. Looks like a provisional score of 30.2, so that's going to be good enough to just go ahead of teammate Caroline Harris, and Leicester CKV will go 7th on the leaderboard. And in terms of a team score for Great Britain, it will put them on 98.6, and that is the score on which they will go forward to cross country. Only the 3 riders in the overall scoreboard. That's Alison there with the rucksack on. Dickie Waygood, chef to keep for Team GB, debriefing, as well as the rest of the British camp. So, Yazingham, Kinda Corvette, get the job seeing them this weekend. Very much in contention for a World Championship spot at that home games in Aachen. Had an unfortunate fall last time out in Le Moulin, so looking for a little bit of a redemption story this weekend. Leah Siegel, though, will be first to come down the centre line. Leah Siegel, though, will be first to come down the centre line. 13:54 is her start time, so she's well within her rights to just top. And it's quite often, you know, when people don't agree with the dressage marks, the ground jury are the ones that they turn to. But actually, judging 75, 80 horses over a couple of days is a fairly intense experience. And I'm glad that I'm not sat in their shoes, it should be said as well. In their shoes, it should be said as well. Bronco looks to be a lady who made history for Austria last year, the highest place finisher an Austrian rider at a European Championships. She finished inside the top 5. Van Helsing P was her ride at Blenheim. DSP Fighting Line was the horse that really made her career. She's still, it's hard to believe given how much she has achieved in her career to date, but she's still comfortably in her 20s. She turns 28 later on this summer, and yet she's been to 3 senior European championships. She's been to 2 Olympic Games. She was 15th individually in Tokyo, and she's been to a World Championships where she finished inside the top 25 too. Watermill Giorgio, her ride here in Avenches, and would be the sort of next generation of stars coming through her programme. He's 15 now, by Carambole, owned by Andreas Rudy. But is a horse that we've seen her ride on a number of Nations Cup teams over the last couple of years, actually including jumping a double clear round in Marbach a little bit earlier on this year. Was second in Vine and Newstad earlier on this season in the 4-star division there, just outside the top 10 in Stragom in the 4-star long the end of last season, and actually did complete this Nations Cup class here 12 months ago. Yeah, whose father Harold already having completed his test. A little bit crooked in the rein back, but relaxed enough. Leah excellent at producing a test. And the Austrian team performances, they finished in 5th at Blenheim at the Europeans last year, but she was backed up by some brilliant performances from her teammates as well. Austria currently sitting in 2nd in the team standings in the Nations Cup series. Lovely change. Really, really nice. Has been as low as 29.3. That was in Arville last year. It'll be pretty close to that here. And the changes have been very good. Lovely final halt. And Leah Siegel should just sneak sub 30, I think, with that final mark to come in. Automil Giorgio doing a really good job for the Austrian team. Harald Siegel and Andreas Peikler, the other two Austrian team riders. Austria, another of those nations that just have the 3 riders in their teams. They have to count all 3 scores. And actually, when we turn our attentions to tomorrow, we will see Leah coming forward with Conrad P, who's the top young horse that she really rates for the future. But Dark Gambler will be in the lineup as well. So 2 really exciting young horses to look out for Leah tomorrow. There's plenty of other big names on the start list tomorrow. You've got Julia Krajewski and Julsinger's Nickel, the recent German national champions. You've got Michael Young, Perseverance Funky Famous Flamborghini, which is possibly the best horse name on the circuit at the moment. Christoph Wahler, another ride for him, another ride for Felix Vogt, and I think you've got plenty of others to look forward to as well. So we have now the final German combination. Bergendal. Anna comes forward riding Bronco NRW. This is a horse who is 10 years of age by Blockbuster, out of a Lacalido mare, was bred by the Bergendal family, now owned by Suzanne Dorner, and is one that has certainly, I think, set out to make a good first impression on our judges. Very smart entry. On the long list for the German team for the World Championships in Aachen. It's a horse that actually came 5th at Buccolo last year, scored 29.9 in the Nations Cup final last season. Just added 2 seconds of cross-country time penalties to that score. But also have picked up some really competitive 4-star short results. And then this season, they did a good double clear at Royal Jump with plenty of time faults cross-country. And then Boynton, no doubt, back here as well to really try and put a claim in on one of those 5 spots that will be on offer for Aachen. 4 team members, 1 individual is the allocation for Aachen for the World Championships. The German teams so far are looking unbelievably strong in this Nations Cup. They won their home leg in Marbach. In terms of the individual standings at the moment, 1st, 2nd and 3rd with the Broncos live score running, but their was 1st, 2nd and 5th. Anything sub 29 will improve the German team score. And so far it's definitely looking very smart. Up that counter canter, and then you're straight into this extended canter. You've got to keep the balance, but you want to show real ground cover and the quality of the canter. You've got to really use correct positioning too. Lovely change, really nice. Looked easy and supple, clean. Remember, both changes in this test double marked. This is where his teammate Christoph Wahler picked up lots and lots of marks. Another really good change as well, actually, because Decor FRH's canter work, he didn't drop below an 8 for all of the canter work bar 1-7. Anna Bergendal is certainly going to put in a very polished first phase here. It's going to be close to the horse's personal best. Can't see the front legs, but the hind legs look square. And Arne Bergendahl and Bronco NRW will improve the German team score, will bring them sub 90, and will just reiterate that German domination at the top of the leaderboard as things stand. It's a big week for this young man. It's a big week for this young horse, who looks to be taking it all in his stride. He is pricked, very relaxed. Lovely, kind, interested eye. Having a jolly good look round. And looking very pleased with a job well done. So he should, because that was a very, very smart test. I think it is going to be good enough to go equal third with Sanne de Jong and Enjoy on a score of 28.1. Arne Bergendahl and Bronco NRW. There we go. That is confirmation. Superb test from them. Total unity from the judges as well, actually. Both agreeing completely with that. And that will see him go equal third on the leaderboard. What does it do to the German team score? Takes them on to a score of 79.6. So that is Germany out in front, but also their drop score is still sub 30 as well. So in a very, very strong position going forward to the cross country. I don't think anybody's quite going to be able to catch them in the dressage, but hey, watch this space. We've still got plenty of big names to go in terms of the team competition. The individual standings, well, there's a certain Michael Young, Fisher Chipmunk FRH, who go down the centre line a little bit later on this afternoon, who one would imagine would be wrestling the top spot from Christoph Fowler. We'll watch that a little bit later on. Now, though, we go back to Poland. Joanna Pawlak and Armin de Monsieur. Poland, at the moment, two combinations have done their test. They've only got the 3 in the field. 36.3 and a 37.6. They're on 73.9. 13 years of age, Armin de Monsieur, owned by Joanna alongside Marcin Sobolewski. Combination were 5th at Babarithko in the 4-star short at the end of May. Top 10 at Stragom in the 4-star long at the end of last season as well. Oh, just a little bit of a stumble into actually looking like a... Good positioning right into that half pass, and you've got half a dozen strides or so on the centre line before the change comes up. Oh, and again, another little false step into that final halt, which was a real shame for them, just in a very abrupt finish to their test. But big pats for Armin de Monsieur. Joanna looks pretty pleased with that, and it'll be a sub 35 on the board as well. So Joanna Pawlak and Armin de Monsieur will be very close to their two teammates in terms of score delivered in the first phase. This could be a horse and rider combination that we see represent Poland at the World Championships in Aachen, taking place the 12th through to the 16th of August. They are on the list of nominated entries for Aachen. So hugely exciting few weeks for them. Wishing them the very best of luck, as we are with all of the combinations here this weekend. It's a huge weekend for many. Yes, we're seeing some of the young stars of the sport of the future. There we go, 35.1 into 18th. We're seeing some young horse and rider combinations that we will perhaps look forward to seeing at future championships, but also there's a number of teams using this as a final trial, if you will, or final preparation. Plenty of people still fighting for their spot at those World Championships. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that we'll see here in 12 months' time. Is one of 3 horses he has nominated for Aachen, listed with Calero, with Frida, who he rides here tomorrow, and also with Cartania, his Meriden 5-star winner. But Calero is the horse that gave him that historic victory at Longines-le-Moulin back in 2022, I think it was. He's done a huge amount in his career, Calero. And Avenches has played a big part of that as well. He's been consistently in the sub-30 territory for at least his last 8 international runs. I imagine that's a streak that goes back even further. So this is a test that could certainly challenge the very best. He made his senior championship debut back in 2013, I think it was, the European Championships with On Fire, who he then went on to ride at the World Championships in Cannes. Was his ride at the Olympic Games. Felix, just 36 years of age. Six senior European Championships, 3 Olympics, a couple of Worlds, or 3 World Championships to his name. It's a pretty extraordinary record. Calero, always very flashy in this first phase, and they know each other so well. They know how to get the job done. In terms of his record here in Avenches, actually, it's pretty impressive. The horse has been here 3 times. He's been second twice and 9th once. Came here most recently last year. Finished as runner-up to himself. Has broken the 20 barrier once in his career, this horse actually. That was in a 2-star at Radolfzell, scored 19.1 back in 2017. Best test at 4-star level has been here in Avenches, or at the 4-star short level I should say, 23.9 back in 2021. Nearly 70 international starts to his name, this horse. Relaxed in the extended walk, showing a really good over track. Up the canter, really goes for it in that extended canter. The horse comes back to him beautifully, keeps his balance as well. He was very brave there. Remember, the leader on 25.1. This is going to be extremely close. It's going to come down to these changes. That was lovely. Really, really nice. Best top level test for Calero, 23.5. That was at Pretoni in a 4-star long back in 2023. That was late behind. That is going to be extremely costly. Could well cost him the lead here. We'll watch the scoreboard with interest. There you are. You can see just how costly it is. He might be able to claw it back. 25.1, remember, that is Christoph Waller, Decor FRH, and it's a beautiful final halt for Felix Vogue and Calero. But what a horse this is. How lucky we are to enjoy him this weekend as well, because 18 years of age, owned by Jürgen Vogue. He is a horse that has delivered so much in his career. We talked about Felix's championship experience, but actually this horse has a whole host of championship experience too. Europeans in Harada, Olympic Games in Tokyo, World Championships in Tryon. He made his championship debut, Calero, 8 years ago as a 10-year-old in America, and yet he's still here at the top of his game today. One very special horse. There we go, 25.4 wasn't quite enough to sneak the lead. That final change proving very expensive, but still good enough to see him go into second. Felix, of course, the defending champion here, but also the defending champion in the Swiss National Championship race, which is taking place this weekend too. So the highest placed Swiss rider will be crowned the Swiss national champion. So Felix Vogue and Calero complete, and that is going to be a very good score for Switzerland too. It's going to improve their team score and see them go second behind Germany. 83.5 Switzerland. So they are locked in, 83.5. Germany locked in on 79.6. Gillian Geeson next to go, Seattle Park. This is a horse that was actually produced by Sophia Hill in Australia. Gillian's had the ride for a couple of years now, and they've formed a really good partnership. He's particularly quick cross country. Lovely little Australian thoroughbred. (13 years of age), owned by Lip Stables Associates. On a score of 30 at the moment. Switzerland in second, just ahead of the Netherlands. It's quite a big gap for the Netherlands to try and close on Switzerland. They'd dearly like to get a little bit closer. Anything 31.5 or 31.4 and below will improve the Dutch team score. They've had a really good start to the competition so far, the Dutch. Making their season debut. scored 30.5 in Stragom last year. That was their best test at the level, but it's a little bit of a mixed bag in terms of scores in the dressage. That was a lovely change. Hasn't gone sub 30, but it's been close to the 30 barrier, but also 39.4 in Stragom last year. Is a real jumping machine though, and both very nice changes here. Good enough to just tip them sub 30. At the moment, if they can hold on to this, they will improve that Dutch team score. And that would really put the cherry on top of a very, very good Dutch performance cake this morning. Because they've come out and they've delivered 4 very, very strong team performances. I think the team score will just improve slightly, regardless whether she will go sub 30 or not. But Gillian Geeson, Seattle Park, really laying down their claim. They'd love a trip to the World Championships in Aachen. There's the final observation event for the Dutch team. They finished 3rd at Royal Jump, which was the last observation event. Just added 1 second of time cross-country to their score. Clear inside the time at Arveil last year in the Nations Cup. There we go, 30.1. It's a personal best for Gillian Geeson and Seattle Park. And that sees them in 9th place individually at the moment. We've still got a few individual riders to take us through to the end of the first day of competition, but it does draw to a close the team riders in the Nations Cup, so we'll be able to give you a full rundown of the team standings at the moment. So Gillian Geeson completes the Dutch team score, 89.7. That sees them in 3rd, but the lead is Germany, 79.6. I think my workings out, that is the best score from a team after dressage so far in the 2026 FEI Eventing Nations Cup season. So sub 80 for Germany. Very, very, very strong start. Switzerland, 83.5, sitting in 2nd as a team. Netherlands in 3rd, 89.7. And there's a little gap back then to France, 97.1 in 4th, Great Britain 98.6 in 5th, and Austria 103.0, Poland 109.0, Italy 111.5. So that is the team shake-up at the moment. In terms of the individual viewpoint, it is Decor FRH, Christoph Wahler 25.1, who lead the way from Felix Vogue and Calero 25.4. Academia is the most phenomenal jumper on the last day. What a horse he is. There's not many others I think Julia would rather be sat on over the coloured poles. He's extraordinary. But the other 2 phasers are very, very good as well. So a lot to look forward to with this horse. And in terms of his breeding, by Dignified Van Zorgvier, out of a Cult Hero mare, owned by Michael Spurl. 12 years of age, Irish bred. Has been as low as 27.2. Hasn't been out of the top 3 in his last 7 international starts. That's a pretty impressive run of form. Finished 2nd at Le Moulin behind stablemate Nickel in the German National Championships. Was 2nd in Marbach behind Michael Young and Fisher Chipmunk FRH. 2nd in Stragom, 3rd in Montelabretti. Won another 2-star in Montelabretti. Was 3rd at Stragom in the 4-star long last season as well. Has just been quietly picking up good result after good result. Julia did a really good job there because she made sure she'd kept balanced out of the corner. She didn't ask for too much too soon in that extended canter. She just let the horse settle and breathe for a second and then was brave. So she didn't force a mistake. Lovely change. To keep the quality of the canter in the half pass. Good change again. The lead, remember, 25.1. Christoph Waller, the core FRH. Isn't going to challenge that, but is still going to put in a very, very strong first phase and will be pretty close to a personal best for the horse as well. Julia Krajewski, Talabeg Platinum, riding as individuals for Germany. Not chosen for the Nations Cup team here this weekend. Both horses, Talabeg Platinum and Nickel, have run really well so far this season. And perhaps the feeling is that you come here, as has Michael Young, Fisher Chipmunk, and all being well, you know that the selection is on the card, so it's about giving the horses the best final preparation. You don't need to necessarily run them fast. Not fighting for selection in a way that some of the other combinations might be. There's still a lot of pressure. You've still got to deliver, but actually just enables them to ride to their own team feeling a little bit. Michael Young, Fisher Chipmunk FRH. La Bride. So, Merrill Blom-Holzmann, Diego TH come forward as individuals for the Netherlands. Is the 10-year-old, another by Diorado, owned by Staal Blom-Holzmann. Merrill, who's long been one of the Netherlands' leading athletes. I don't actually believe that this horse is listed on the long list for Aachen this year. She's got a really, really good team of horses that she's been producing up the levels, a young team of horses. This horse has been well placed in 8 and 9-year-old classes over the last couple of years. But things just haven't quite gone to plan in his long format events. There's so much promise there. Good show jumper. Generally has been picking up marks in the early 30s in the first phase at this level. Merrill, who's been to 2 Olympic Games for the Netherlands, Rio and Tokyo, 2 World Championships as well, and a whole host of European Championships. Gets the change on the centre line. Merrill, brilliant at producing a test. She's Long been a very, very good producer of young horses as well. Originally produced the horse that has actually been longlisted for the World Championships with Philip Dutton. He's named on the team with Passant, but Denham was a product of Merrill's programme. And it's a very solid first phase score for Diego TH here. Will be around the 30 marker. And that will be good enough to see her slot into just outside the top 10. So we'll wait for that score to be confirmed. But Merrill Blom-Holzman, riding as an individual for the Netherlands, makes her way out of the main international arena here in Avenches. Has 2 combinations left to go. In terms of day 1 of dressage, we'll be back tomorrow as well for another full day of dressage competition for you. Some 38 starters, I think, on the lineup tomorrow. Plenty of big names in there as well. Felix Vogt comes back with 2, Leah Siegel with 2. Julia Krajewski rides her championship contender Nickel. Plus a whole host of other big name riders and some of the stars of the future of the sport as well. 8 o'clock local time is the first horse down the centre line tomorrow. So do come and join us then, as it promises to be another great day of competition. There we go, 30.2, good enough for 12. From Go T. So, 2 combinations left to go. Olympic champion Michael Young. Olympic champion Michael Young with Fisher Chipmunk FRH, 18 years of age now, Chip, by Contendro. A horse who finished with the individual silver medal, helped Germany to team gold at the FEI Eventing European Championships at Blenheim Palace last year. Is the highest rated horse in the world according to the ACCA Ratings ELO. Has an ELO of 939. One of only 2 horses currently competing to be 900 or over. The other, 5-time 5-star winner Lordships Graffalo. There are a few people in the sport who are as accomplished at producing a polished first phase performance as Michael Young. Ooh, an uncharacteristically sort of wobble into the halt. The leader, remember, is on a score of 25.1. That is Christoph Wahler to Core FRH, also for Germany. Scored 2 7s for that halt. They're the 2 lowest marks that he's got so far. Beautiful flying change. And now the marks really starting to come down to where you might expect this combination to score. They've been regularly sub 20. Another really nice change. They're on track to take over at the top of the leaderboard here. Oh, again, a slight miscommunication on the final centre line. It's not often that you see that from this combination, but it's still going to be good enough to take the lead. safe to say they've left themselves a few marks at room for improvement come Aachen, come a home World Championships. But let's be honest, we're really being picky, because still going to be sub 23, and he'll know that there are a few marks left in the arena today, but actually he's still going to have done enough. And when we get through the weekend, we'll feel like we've been through the washing machine. The leaderboard will be absolutely different to how it starts after dressage. But make no mistake, this combination will be ones looking to peak in just a few weeks' time. 22.2, good enough to take the lead. Michael Young, Fisher Chipmunk FRH. And the Olympic champions will lead the way here in Avenches. Can anyone get past them? Well, we'll have to watch this space over the next day or so in terms of the dressage leaderboard to start with. But they've been and got the first phase done and dusted. Michael Young, Fisher Chipmunk FRH, very fortunate to be able to see them here in Avenches. 22.2 is an exceptional score, but there were marks left in the arena there, and he's so we now go to one of Switzerland's stars. It is Robin Godel. Dealer de la Bride, second of his rides, competing as an individual with this horse. We saw Grandeur de Lally a little bit earlier on. 29.8 sees him sitting individually inside the top 10.
So we have the last rider for this afternoon in the FEI 4-star, Robin Godel for Switzerland, and the dealer de la Bride.
So Robin Godel, who brings forward Made in Simile Bred Dealer de la Bride. Not quite square in the first halt. This horse can get a little bit tense in the first phase. But Robin, an absolute master of getting the best out of him. Dealer de la Bride, one of, I think, 4 horses that Robin has in the field here this weekend. Best at this level in the first phase is 37.5. Went clear cross country at Royal Jump a few weeks ago. In the 4-star short, top 20 in Stragom, in the 4-star long earlier on in the season. And actually here 12 months ago, jumped a lovely double clear and finished inside the top 20. The leader, remember, 22.2. Michael Young, Fisher Chipmunk alongside Grandeur de Lally. One would imagine that his experienced championship campaigner, Grandeur de Lally, would perhaps be the first choice. But this horse is really making a name for himself. And maybe his championship will come here in 12 months' time. Unfortunately, late behind in that change. And again, unfortunately, that change didn't was late behind, actually even later than the first one. So really unfortunate, the changes. And in this test, the FEI 4-star Test D, they're so expensive because they are double marked. So you get the mark twice from each judge. So if you do really good changes and you get 2 8s, then you would actually get 4 8s. If you do 2 not so good changes and you get 2 4s, then you get 4 4s. So it makes it doubly as valuable or doubly as expensive, depending on however your changes go. Robin Godel, Dealer de la Bride still could be on track for a personal best here in the first phase at this level for the horse. Previous best 37.5. And Robin is going to bring day 1 of competition here in Avenches to a close. We'll wait for his score before we do a bit of an overview of the overall leaderboards. Robin Godel, he will go out as pathfinder for the Swiss team on Saturday. Grandeur de Lally leading the Swiss team, who currently sit in second on the team leaderboard. Germany out in front. But it's been a brilliant day. We've seen some fantastic individual performances. There we go, 37.5 for Robin Godel, just outside the top 25, Dealer de la Bride. So let's sum up today. Let's start with the Nations Cup competition. It is Germany who lead the way, 79.6 on the leaderboard from their team riders. Decor FRH sits individually in second, 25.1. Karamia FRH and Labissa Lubica in fourth, 26.4. Anna Bergendahl, Bronco in sixth, and Rita Tam, Antonio Baumgart inside the top 10 as well. All of those German flags, bar 2, in the notable performances: Felix Vogt and Calero, and Julia Krajewski, Tullabeg Platinum, the horse producing a personal best as well. A little bit further on down the leaderboard, Yazingham and Caroline Harris, both in the British team here. The Brits only fielding a squad of 3. It's been a very good day at the office actually for the Dutch team riders. All 4 of those inside the top 20. And then a little bit further on down the leaderboard, Lafinio rounding out 9.6. Switzerland, not a lot when it comes down to the cross country, just under 4 penalties behind Germany. The Netherlands 89.7 in third. Then you've got France 98.6 in fifth. Austria 106, 109.0 for Poland in seventh. Italy 111.5 in eighth. So Germany very much in the driving seat. Netherlands appearing for the really making their mark. Do join us back again for tomorrow's Dressage live at 8 o'clock. We'll see you then.